Okay, there we go.
I'm honored to be introducing to you today Dr. Sean Talbot. I've never heard this term before, but I love it. He is a psychonutritionist who integrates nutrition, biochemistry, and psychology to help people feel, look, and perform better. His recent projects include two academic textbooks, an award winning documentary film, several best-selling books translated into multiple languages, and numerous top-selling nutraceuticals and functional foods. He runs the Three Waves Wellness Center in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and trains wellness coaches. Dr. Talbot is also an endurance nut with dozens of Ironman and ultra marathon finishes to his name. Wow. What prompted you to pursue this kind of work, Sean?
Oh well, it's actually kind of a sad story how I got into it. So in the early part of my career, I was what you'd call a sport nutritionist. I worked with U.S. Ski Team and U.S. Track and Field Association and things like that. A lot of fun. But in this must have been 2001, probably. My younger brother died of a drug overdose, and he used drugs to like self-treat his anxiety. And
Right.
so, it kind of got me to say like, hey, with all this biochemistry work that I do to try to get athletes to, you know, get their mental edge so they can, win the gold medal, what if we could take that same idea and use it to help people who are like regular people to be less stressed or less anxious or more happy or something like that. So I shifted my research focus and took my biochemistry degree and applied it more towards mood and what today we call mental fitness. And that's the work I've been doing for the last 20 years or so.
Bless you. It's certainly needed. It seems like the medical community is beginning to get the message that our
Mhm.
food, nutrition, mood, and physical health are all connected.
Right.
You mentioned that we have little control of the stresses in our lives, but what we do, we have control over. How can we tell the difference between negative anxiety and positive excitement?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, when I talk about stress, when I talk about anxiety, it's not all bad. It's not that like stress can be a good thing for us, and a little bit of anxiety, that's what lights the fire under us and gets us up and gets us into motion, right? So what I try to tell people is, try to reframe some of that and say, if we can take this stress, use it as a motivator. If we can take these feelings of anxiety, maybe we can use that and twist it and say, instead of it's anxiety that's getting in my way, maybe it's excitement. And I can be excited about going on stage, or I can be excited about the job interview, or I can be excited about this tough conversation I'm about to have, because on the other side of that, there might be good things. So some of it is just a little bit of like reframing what
Yeah.
situation we're actually in and trying, it might sound a little trite, but like trying to see the silver lining in whatever that situation is.
Reframing is such a powerful tool and it can make such a huge difference. What are your most effective methods of reducing anxiety?
Oh, for me, well, you said in the introduction, I'm an endurance nut, right? So, like going for a walk, going for a run, going for a bike ride, anything that gets me outside and just lets my brain kind of go, that's what it is for me, right? So I'm at least lucky that my hobby is also my stress management. So I get to do that on a regular basis. But for other people, it can be reading, it can be sewing, it can be like for my wife, it's gardening. Whenever she's stressed out, she wants to go outside and put her hands in the dirt. So like finding that thing that you can do that is just a it's a balm for you, right? You like to do it. You would do it no matter what. But then you have that thing for when, what hits the fan and you need to just like take the edge off, you can go do that thing. Because here's why it's important, Nancy, is that if you don't have that thing, sometimes people can get into doing, you know, things that are bad for us, right? So like, my brother, right? He used illicit drugs. Other people might drink. Other people might gamble. Other people might, there's all kinds of, adverse habits that we can get ourselves into that are, that we're using to buffer that stress and that anxiety. If we can find something that's healthy, then, that's going to go a long way.
Well, like your wife, I garden.
Oh, good.
I make quilts, and I also go on regular long walks to help me process things emotionally, and I often get inspiration while I'm walking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a famous quote, and who knows how real this is, from Aristotle, that said, if you are in a bad place mentally, go for a walk.
Yeah.
And the walk is the solution. Or the solution will come to you on the walk. And I think that's great advice. It's a 2,000-year-old advice, and here we are giving it today.
Well, probably things that work still work.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. They're with us 2,000 years later because there's something to it, right?
Yes. You mentioned that exercise elevates neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine and endorphins, which also enhance sleep. I love your brief advice to focus on what is within your control and forget the rest. That's such great advice, but forgetting the rest is the key.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if you don't have control over something, then why are you worrying about it? Right? There's a great chart. I actually used to have it a printout of it hung up on my computer monitor. It says here's your problem. Do you have control over it? If the answer is yes, then do something about it.
Yeah.
And the other side says if you don't have control over it, then forget about it, right? Those are two very easy decisions, right? Do something or don't do something. And if you can't control it, easier said than done sometimes. I get it, but that I try to remind myself of that all the time, So like why come back and worry about something and obsess about it and get your mind going if you can't control it in the first place? So just let that go, and it's not just my advice, right? It's from ancient Greeks, it's from Buddhism, it's from like all the great philosophies of all of time have this as a central idea that, focus on what you can control.
I have a simple little old Kleenex box that I've labeled my prayer box, and when I am obsessed about something, I write it on a slip of paper and put it in the box and say, "Okay, it's not in my hands anymore."
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. One of the therapies that we sometimes, will recommend to people is that if you're the type of person where you have trouble with that, you have trouble setting the thing aside, um, and a lot of times that happens to people when they go to sleep at night, right? They lie down in bed, and as soon as their head hits the pillow, their brain starts going, and they start obsessing about whatever that thing is. We say put a notebook right by your bed and write it down in the notebook, and once it's on the page, it's out of your brain, right? It's there. You can pick it up in the morning if you feel like you need to, but it's not there right now interfering with your sleep. So that's a very similar thing to what you do with your tissue box. I love that.
I found that very helpful. If I can't let go of it, if I just write it out and, get it out of my brain, or sometimes that's why I go for a walk,
Right.
because walking in nature and being outside help me let go of things I have no control over.
Right. Exactly.
In the article, you list 4 herbs that reduce stress, and I'll
Mhm.
recommend that our viewers read your full article. But you also mention the importance of getting at least 10 minutes of sunlight every day. Why is that?
Yeah, sunlight can be, some people get addicted to sunlight, right? I love the sun. I live in the Northeast, right? So we don't get as much sun as I would like sometimes. But sun is a direct improver, stimulator of serotonin. So most people who are watching probably understand serotonin is sort of the neurotransmitter of happiness, right? If we don't have enough serotonin, we're likely to be sad. But sunlight is a direct producer in your brain. When the sunlight goes in your eyeballs, think of your eyes as just a hardwired connection directly into your brain. So when we get just as little as 10 minutes of morning sunlight, that increases our serotonin production, and we benefit from that all day long. And well, we actually benefit from it in two ways. We have the serotonin during the day, so we're happier than we would be if we didn't get the sunlight. But then that serotonin serves as a precursor for melatonin that our bodies are going to make at night to help us with sleep, with good sleep quality. So getting that 10 minutes of morning sunlight actually helps us sleep better that night. And then that gives us a happy day the next day because we got a good night's sleep. So you get into this very nice cycle of happy day, happy night, happy day, happy night. And I think that's what all of us want.
I didn't realize the connection between serotonin and melatonin. That's really very interesting.
Yeah.
You also often take an afternoon walk with your dog, who is,
Mhm.
you say, a great listener.
She's a great listener. Yeah.
You find that many of your patients appreciate the companionship of a pet.
Oh my gosh, it's the best. Yeah, having a pet is, I mean, can be frustrating sometimes, right? But they are the best, right? They're good listeners. But there's good not philosophical physiology about having a pet. So um, there's some good studies to show. So a lot of times I talk about the gut brain axis, right? What's happening in the gut, making your neurotransmitters can change what happens in your brain. There's also this concept of the heart brain axis, where the electrical activity of your heart can synchronize with the electrical activity of your brain. And when those two tissues come in resonance with each other, you feel more calm, you feel more happy, you feel less stressed. Dogs, especially, can really help with that. And so there's some really good physiology studies that will measure the electrical activity of your pet and your electrical activity of yourself. And when you're thinking loving thoughts about your dog, that changes your whole electrical activity of your body and you become happier. So just that in and of itself, I don't know how it works for cats. This is actually one of the theories around equine therapy. When we have people who are struggling with addiction or depression or something like that, and we have them, take care of horses, the same thing happens there. You have to calm yourself in order to calm the horse, and that like dual calming changes your whole mental outlook. It's really amazing to see.
Well, I've always had dogs until about a year ago when I switched to cats. I have two cats, and they often start out the evening sleeping wherever they want to, but I'll wake up in the middle of the night and they're curled up
And they're
against
right with you, right?
right against me, and I love it. It's very comforting, very
Right,
soothing.
right, exactly.
So you recommend, I love that you recommend a nightly gratitude practice. Tell me, when did that start and what does it do for you?
Yeah. Oh, well, we've been doing it for so long. I'm not even, I mean, probably when I first started doing this kind of work. I wrote my first book about stress physiology and mental wellness. What I call psychological vigor. And in my world, vigor is the opposite state of burnout. So I that book came out in 2002, probably. I wrote it to help me understand sort of what was happening with my brother and things like that. So I probably started gratitude practice right around then. So that's almost 25 years now. In fact, I have like a little wooden sign that says gratitude that is on the wall at the foot of the bed. And so like I can't help but see it. Like when I get in the bed at night to read before I go to sleep, I see at the end of the bed, I see the gratitude sign, and it just reminds me to go, okay, what am I grateful for today? And it's, when I recommend that people do gratitude, sometimes people like to write it down. They actually journal it. They write down three things. I try to say, think about like the smallest thing you can think of. So, I took the dog for a walk, or I had, my favorite spaghetti sauce for dinner, or I have a roof over my head, or like, just it doesn't have to be I won the lottery or I got a promotion. It doesn't have to be a big thing you're grateful for. The smaller the better sometimes, and think of one or two or three things and it helps you sleep and it helps you be happy and it helps you be grateful for everything that we have.
I started an evening gratitude practice probably 30 or 35 years
Oh,
ago.
good for you.
And I remember times when I just was grateful that I had a bed, you know,
Yeah,
go to sleep on. But other times when I was grateful for the particular color of green that my grass was that day,
that's great.
vivid green. There's so many things to be grateful for. And when we're focusing on that, it keeps us from dwelling on stuff that we tend to worry about.
Yeah, yeah, it's really important because humans have a negativity bias. We always sort of laser in on on the problem, on the thing that's wrong. And it's one way that I tell my students is you think of they're all on social media and they post whatever they're going to post and they get a like and a thumbs up and a heart and a great comment and 20 different positive interactions, and then there's that one negative thumbs down or a nasty comment or something. And what's the one they remember? They don't remember the 20 positive ones. They dwell on that one negative comment because that's how our brains are wired. And gratitude practice can help us get out of that and help us, focus on the positive.
I love it. It really, I began that practice during a very difficult time financially in our lives, and it transformed not only our attitude as my husband and I began practicing it together, but eventually it transformed our finances as well.
Yep.
So, what is the easiest way for viewers to get in touch with you?
Probably best thing is just go to my website, which is just doctalbot.com, doctalbott.com. And I've got all kinds of stuff there. I've got articles and videos and all kinds of things for people to, learn about what I do.
It sounds like you've collected an enormous wealth of resources that support mental and physical health. I really appreciate all the work you've done, and I'm sorry about your brother. Perhaps he served his purpose in changing the trajectory of your practice.
Right. And I try to think that, right? That what he went through is a benefit for me, but then hopefully what the work that I'm doing is helping a lot of other people, right? So like that kind of ripple effect, that if I help somebody, maybe they'll be better and that'll be better for their family and their community and etc. So like I just try to think about that every day.
So many of the people that I interview, Sean, started their, let's say, they were introduced to their purpose in life by something that was very difficult for them to go through, and yet they've turned it into a resource to help hundreds or thousands of others. And I really have a great deal of respect for what you've done with the grief of losing your brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. I appreciate you spending this time with me today.
My pleasure, Nancy. Thanks very much for having me.
You are so welcome.